So if a video game causes you stress, it's not doing what it's designed to do. Is that what you mean?
For me, it's not doing what it's designed to do for me. Now, it's probably doing what it's designed to do for all the other players who are out there who want a challenge and who want, to be stressed out and to have that feeling of accomplishment. I get that. I totally do. But for me, if we're going to be honest here, if we're playing video games, we're escaping into a dream world where we are the hero, right? And so why in your dream do you want to be stressed out and work really hard at something? Because, in the real world, we have to work really hard at anything in order to get by. Real life sucks sometimes, and you can't, no matter how hard you try, you just can't get there. Why would you want to bring that into an escape into a dream world? Why is your dream to be stressed out? Like, people who love the Dark Souls games, what are you, sadists? I cannot
know I know those people are out there, but I am not those people. I just aren't. And I hope you're ready to talk about difficulty now, because I kind of want to, because we're building up some steam here.
Yeah.
I agree with you I agree with everything that you just said most of the time. And what I mean by that, I think you'll recognize what I mean when I say that there's more than one kind of difficulty, or there's more than one kind of way to make a game hard. If you make a game and then you say, okay, I just made normal mode. Now hard mode is when all the enemies have 4 times the health. And then easy mode is when all the enemies have 1/4 the health. That's lazy. Like, you didn't really change anything. You just made the person that wants to play hard do something tedious. And if you have to do something tedious instead of fun on hard mode, like, then it's not worth it, right? I mean, For me, fun is key. And there are people for whom fun means that the first time they try the game, they die and they have to go back again. I've always had, like, my rule of thumb as far as enemy difficulty is it has to be easy to kill yourself by doing nothing. As in, if you stand there and you don't move, then your death should come quickly, because if it doesn't, it means that you're not really overcoming anything by beating these enemies. You're not doing anything different than just not doing anything. If death comes swiftly, but you can keep it back by doing what you're doing, then that's a good game, a good level to do it. But I mentioned Ninja Gaiden before, and that was really a game that really sticks out in my mind, because the first I played through it. I had Ninja Gaiden Black on the Xbox, and Ninja Gaiden Black added something special called Ninja Dog mode, where it was easier. But Ninja Gaiden was already a game that was famous for being hard, so they didn't make it. They made it, a little bit easier and they made fun of you the whole time. They humiliated you for being such a pansy, right?
Right.
This is one of those games. Well, I played through about half of it. And I remember thinking, like, that first mission was just the hardest thing I've ever done. That was close to impossible, was first level. And then I started up a new game, and I played the first level, and I breezed through it. I was barely hit once. And what had happened was, as far as the level of difficulty went, I had gotten better at the game. I had gotten better at playing the game. I had gotten faster. I knew what worked and what didn't. I knew kind of how to dodge and recover and how to do these things. And I respected that, because that to me is like, you have to learn something. You have to walk the way of the ninja a little bit to enjoy this game. And I thought that was so cool. So then there are other games where it's like, hard mode means you just sit there doing this thing over and over and over and just slamming your head against the enemy over and over and over until they die. And I don't feel a sense of accomplishment after I do the same one thing 1,000 times. That's not an achievement for me,
Yeah.
Would you agree? And there's even different ways to make an enemy harder to kill. There's a really, really cool video where this guy did some experimenting with Skyrim artificial intelligence. And what he did was he just made a cave. He populated it with a handful of wizards from Skyrim. They were lightning wizards. And then at every stage, he gave them more to do. He never made them harder. He never cranked up the difficulty on the game to make them have more health, but he gave them more options. He made it so that the enemies knew kind of the geometry of the room, and they could stand in certain places. He made it so that this one can set mines, and he knows where to set the mines. And the craziest thing, he programmed all this in, and in the end, the cave takes forever to load because it has all these. It's got these like 3 really, really smart wizards in there. So he walked through all of the different ways that in a normal vanilla Skyrim playthrough, you would kill these guys. No matter what difficulty they were on, you could still run up and smash them over and over with a sword, But he wanted not that. He wanted to make it so you had to do something else to kill him. And he found other creative ways to do it based on what he had taught these enemies. And I thought it was so cool because it was an example of like, it was an example of there's more than one way to make an enemy harder than just giving them more health. You can give more challenge. Now, I don't know how that would turn if you play on normal and you're used to normal, and then you go to hard and all of a sudden everybody has like a new trick that you've never seen before and you're not ready for. I don't know how that would play out. But I'm with you on Dark Souls. I tried to play through Dark Souls 3 and I was like, who likes this? Who enjoys Who enjoys being this bad in the beginning? And just, I guess it's like a rite of, it's a bragging thing or a rite of passage. But I got, there's really good and fun games out there that I need to get to before I waste my time with this nonsense where I just die over and over.
Yeah, and it's almost like, to my knowledge, Dark Souls doesn't really have, I don't know, I don't know, but I haven't heard anybody say, Dark Souls 3 is the best storyline ever created. I haven't heard anything about the storyline, so what's the point if you're just leveling up and grinding and figuring out what all these bosses do and and memorizing how to move and, not to, because that's basically what Dark Souls is. It's, you have to also memorize everybody's moves and you can't go in guns a-blazing. You got to be smart and intelligent. And I get why certain gamers would like that, because it brings back the difficulty of the old games back in Nintendo days where every game was like that.
Yeah, but think about why they were hard. In some cases, they were hard because nobody bothered to tell you like what you were supposed to be doing, or that red square would kill you, and you got to go for the yellow square instead. Stuff like you brought up cheat codes, and I thought would any of us have beaten GoldenEye 007? And gotten through that level called Egyptian, where you had to walk this certain way through the stones. You know what I'm talking about? To get the golden gun, you had to walk up 2, over 1, up, and there was no. That's a great example of a game that they told you way too little. Sometimes you were supposed to like throw something onto something. Sometimes you were supposed to leave it there. Sometimes you were supposed to like take it out and blow it up, and they never, You had to honestly you had to get Nintendo Power magazine just to figure out like what was happening in the game, which is probably what they were going for. But like, people harken back, the games in the old times, they were so much more difficult. Well, yeah, that's because there was a lot that was missing. There was a lot that we have now. Maybe we do take it for granted, but like there's an expectation that these controls, right? This one's going to do this and this one's going to do this. They all are the same now. Back in the olden days, it was a crapshoot, Shane. And nobody has any idea what this one would do. This one wasn't jump. For some reason, A was forward. And it's like, I guess my point is there's more than one way to make a game hard. Even really, really easy games that I have breezed through, I get to a halfway point and they want me to do something that they didn't really tell me how or what. So you go online and they're like, well, you're supposed to run backwards and you were supposed to catch that, piece of paper that you didn't pick up 40 minutes ago. Well, that was hard, but it wouldn't have been hard if, the game was like designed differently. Does that make sense?
Like back in the day, they had to extend the length of the game, and the only way they could have done that was through difficulty. and through repetition and through pattern recognition. That's the only way they could extend the length of a game. I've never beaten Mario, the first one, because you know how many levels are in Mario? I don't know, but it's like 100. It's something like...
You should watch a speed run and make yourself feel better about that. You know what? There are 100 levels. I think you're right. I mean, we didn't stay in Pizza Hut long enough for me to put enough quarters into the arcade and find out.
But that's actually why I started playing RPGs. It was because I remember my first real role-playing game I ever played was Chrono Trigger. And
great game.
So my story with Chrono Trigger is that my mother rented it for me. Me and my mother, we would go to the video store, and it wasn't Blockbuster. It was one of those mom and pop video stores, like Video Right.
Yeah, that if they're still open now, they're like 90% porn and 10% everything else. Yeah.
Exactly.
We have one of those down the street.
So
that's where I get my porn.
We rent Chrono Trigger, I bring it back home, and I just start playing it. And this is before I knew what New Game Plus was. Okay, and so I started the game in New Game Plus, and I'm killing everybody. I'm level 99. I don't know what level 99. I don't know what experience points is. I'm just going through the game, and I'm loving the story, and I beat the game that way, or I almost beat the game, and I stopped playing.
Tell me what New Game Plus means in that game.
New Game Plus means you get to carry everything over from the previous game when you beat the game. So when you beat the game, you get to carry, your stats, all your weapons.
So were you working with an old save like somebody else had done? Okay.
Right. So it's a video store. Okay. So I rented a game that someone had already beaten. So I just did New Game Plus and carried over the other person's previous game. And I didn't know what that meant at the time.
So you made it through the entire game and you were like, I guess it's fun, but how come every enemy doesn't take 2 hits to kill? Take 2 hits to kill.
How old was I? I was 12 when that game came out. I don't know when that game. I was young, and I loved anime. I was like really into anime at that time, and it's just it was the same artist who did Dragon Ball Z, and I was really into Dragon Ball Z. So I love the aesthetic of it, the art style, like everything else besides the difficulty of the game was doing it enough for me to play through the game almost to the end. Now let me finish. So I take the game back and I don't finish the game. I convinced my mother to buy it for me for Christmas because I loved it so much.
Oh no.
Yeah. So she buys it for me for Christmas. I open it up. I'm so excited. I start playing the game, and I don't know what it means to level up or experience points. I don't know how any of this how any of this stuff works. And I go through it like the first boss of the stories. It's notably a lot harder this time. And I'm like, why is it so much harder? I never realized it was so much harder this time around. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. Till I get to the dystopian future world and get to the boss there where the big robot comes down and you have to fight like the 2 mini bots on the side and the big huge triangle like boss or whatever.
You have to kill them first, right? You can't.
Yeah, there's a little okay. Yeah, there's a little strategery involved. Yeah. And at that point I started to look in the menus and I started to realize like, oh, that's what leveling up means. Oh, I get it now. I have to fight these little enemies to become stronger so I can fight the big dude and eventually go through this whole game. And then once I started doing that and starting to learn how to grind, then I realized, oh, I can grind forever and become this big strong dude and destroy all these little dudes and go and even destroy the bosses if I grind enough. So that's why I started playing RPGs, because that way of getting better doesn't involve a lot of like repetition or really a lot of difficulty, just some strategy here and there. But yeah, RPGs are so much easier in that way.
Well, sometimes there's grinding, right? If you want a bunch of levels and you're kind of in a place where you really need to grind, right? But for RPGs though, sometimes grinding is fun, and that's okay. And that's why I always say fun is king, because if you're playing a game and the game asks you to do something that's not fun, it's like that's a failure on the game part.
Right.
I'm trying to think of an example, but like there are some RPGs where it's so much fun to kill people that you don't mind grinding.
Yes,
it's not tedious at all.
There is actually a game that's like that, and it's really, the one that comes to mind immediately is this game called Magna Carta. Magna Carta 2, actually.
It sounds educational.
It's not. I don't even know why it's called Magna Carta. In truth, it's a terrible video game. It's awful, but the combat was so fun that I would put on, what would I put on? I would put on Nightwish. You know that metal band with two like opera singers? No, you don't know them. Yeah. Do you know them? Okay. I would just put on Nightwish and just metal out as I'm battling all these dudes and leveling up and grinding. And the combat system was so fun and got me through the game. Even though the game was terrible, the voice acting was dog shit, and it was just the storyline was, a regular JRPG storyline, which is kind of blah, 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 save the princess,
sacrifice,
tropes,
blah blah blah.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
The protagonist is whiny.
It's actually a law in Japan that if you make one of those and the protagonist is not whiny, then they don't release it.
Yeah.
Did you
right?
You know why I can't make fun? You're talking about not knowing how to level up until you kind of had to learn, and so the game like shocked you into this awakened knowledge.
Yeah.
I can't make fun of you. I can't make fun of 12-year-old you because I played through Phantasy Star 4 on the Sega Genesis, and I got all the way to Zio over and over and over. Zio was like the first like big bad. Of course, like any other RPG, you find out that really he's being controlled by an even more evil presence that you spend the rest of the game hunting. But anybody that's played Phantasy Star 4 will be shocked to hear this. I got all the way to Zio without knowing how to equip new weapons that I had. I thought you just bought the weapon and then we're automatically stronger. So I only fought against bosses, and anytime there was an enemy, I would run away. You had the option to run, right, and then you had like a 1 in 5 chance that they wouldn't let you, so I would just die. So I go from boss to boss, and then when I get to the bosses, there's a 99 out of 100% chance that you die because you have terrible weapons and you haven't been keeping trouble with that. And so I would play it 100 times. I would get that one time and I would move on to the next boss. That's how I thought you played the game. I thought the difficulty ramp was so steep that after the first area, you just shoots up and everybody kills you. And I'm like, why can't I touch these guys? Why am I doing no damage at all?
Dumb, stupid Americans,
it's because
right?
I was stupid.
Yeah, stupid Americans don't know how to play fucking role-playing games. That's why they created Earthbound, right? They created not Earthbound, I'm sorry, it wasn't Earthbound, it was Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest was created by Squaresoft North American division. It was the only game that game and Secret of Evermore, I believe, were the only two games from Squaresoft North American division that they made only for American audiences. And Final Fantasy,
because of how sucky we are?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's just because we just didn't understand it, that type of game. It was huge over in Japan, but over here we were like, what's a role-playing game? What? Give me Zelda, okay? Give me Mario. What is this, Final Fantasy? Get the hell out of here.
RPG.
Yeah. And yeah, if you've ever played Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, you're like, how easy is this? It's so easy.
Oh, really?
You can, yeah, it's very, and the storyline is dumb. It's just very simple. The music is awesome, actually. I like the music a lot. But it looks more like, they're obviously catering to dumb people when you play the game.
Okay. I would like that game. I feel like I would like that game.
It's actually, I found it fun. That's because I'm dumb. That's because I'm a dumb American, and I like simplicity in my games.